Welcome to Max Life Out. Welcome back to my paint cave. And here you can see the final InsideRide setup. So I went from my prototype to this completed unit. You can see that I've actually vinyl wrapped the unit, so it looks good, but also if I sweat on it, it's not going to soak into the wood. So I'm really pleased with it. It works really well. It no longer squeaks when you rock it from side to side. So the rags underneath the ball, they're not necessarily don't look as great, but what I did there was make sure that I could remove them. So if I do get sweat on them, they're a cheap consumable item that I can replace very easily. Now what I'd like to do is take you through the entire build process. So the first step is you can actually use the holes. These are already holes in the front unit, and you can use those. So that's what I've done. The first thing is to remove the end stops. I've removed them here. You can use a tool like this, which is used for removing trim in a car. It won't damage it, so you can get in and lever that out. Use a little metal bracket, and I use the second one down because that way when you have some bracer on here or a piece of wood, it actually won't torque. I started with the first one, but it twists on this, so I use the second one down, putting that in. In place. Two end stops off, and then you can see there's two brackets in place, threaded through. Next up, I'm using a 1.5 by 1.5 inch piece of wood. You can ignore this. This was an early prototype, as well as all the holes. And I'm putting this together as the prototype system, so you'll see it before it gets all finished. What I've also done is added, this is a piece of PVC piping. I've used pipe clamps like this that you can buy as a pack, and I put a pipe clamp on here. I put a little shim here because at 1.5 by 1.5 it's a little bit smaller, so I want to mount it level here so I can create the wings and have a pivot point. And I've added a shim in here, and you'll see later on that shim lines up with the front so that this section and this section line up. You'll see that this is also a 1.5 inch piece because there's a gap here. So we're basically looking at getting a central pivot point. Obviously you want to center this in the middle and then lock it down to the two clamps that you put in place. So that's what I'll do now. And to do that, I'm just using a screw. I'm using a dumpy screwdriver here because obviously you've got not much space in here. Okay, so that's it in place, and this is the pivot point. Next thing, and I've made one up already, this is the front section. Obviously you need to find the center point, and I've just drawn a line here on the center point between the two. You can see this is the same depth as the section here, and this just becomes, I've used those pipe clamps again and a little bit of that plastic PVC piping to create my front pivot point. And for this it literally just snaps over the top. We'll put that on later because I don't want this rocking all over the place. The next step is to make up a couple of wings, and I've pre-made these, obviously drilled the holes, and these sit on the ends of these. And these wings are to hold the balls, so these will be the balance boards that will help the rocker system, so it will pivot on the front and the middle, and then it will balance on the two. So we'll just put those in place. And then you can see that you can lift this up and then the balls will fit underneath. Turning it up, going to use these clamps to brace over the top and hold it in place. Okay, this is the pipe brackets held in place. This is how I've chosen to do it. These are just bolts that I had hanging around, so they're obviously extra long. They're cleared, they're okay for the ground clearance, because once the ball goes in, they don't get in the way. Because this is a sharp edge, just kind of pull it, suck it in, so that it doesn't cut into the ball. And then the ball sits here. Now in this prototype, I could actually move that bracket up. Just looking at it, I think the bracket could come a little bit closer. So now we're going to add the front pivot point. Again, I've used the PVC pipe and the pipe clamp, a couple of bolts through, and then a pipe clamp over the top, so I don't damage it. These are the rubber ones, so they don't damage the unit. And what I've done is I've marked a line for the center point from here to here. I've used this is dual purpose, so I added it at the bottom here, so I could add it here. This is the same depth as this, so basically we're lining up the height correctly to keep it square. So we just add that over the top, and then we'll bolt that into place. You can see that's the pivot point. And we add the two balls, and that's the system in place. Two holes for the center pivot points to strap them down. And then prepping the base, since I used an old piece of plywood, for a vinyl wrap covering. The base has been finished, filled and sanded. I have disassembled the front end of the InsideRide unit, ready for prepping and finishing. So these are all the parts. It's coming together. We've got all of the parts vinyl wrapped, and that's the unit put together. So you can see that I've added these blocks just to hold the ball in place so it doesn't roll out. Central section, and then the front. And now there's prepping to vinyl the baseboard. And after a long day, this is the final product. Some of the features here: you can pump the balls up to add air just here. I've added a cloth here to stop the squeaking noise as it goes backwards and forwards. You saw that on my prototype. I've chosen to add the cloth and not stick it in so they can be taken out and washed. Here I have switched up the center point here. I put a block to raise it up and tie down. We're going to try that out. If that works out well, then I won't need the side straps, but I still have the holes for the side straps. And then at the rear, we have 4 tie downs for the kicker. Well, here we are. Here's the InsideRide hack all set up and finished with the back mounted. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please think about giving me a like, subscribing to the channel, and until next time, max life out and keep your rubber side down.